Hey guys, welcome to Torture Riff. I'm starting something new for the show. I'm going to be doing some interviews. Um, I'm still going to be having my reviews. That's not changing. I was inspired by watching Kent, Rex, and Mike dig their show, and inspired me to do this. Um, so today's guest interview is going to be Dan MILETTE. Back in 1986 to 87, he had a Christian fanzine, and he interviewed many Christian artists at the time. A lot of people have never heard of it or seen it. Stay tuned to the end. I got something special for you. And check out my new intro to the show. And it's going to start now. So welcome, Dan. Welcome to Torrential Riff. I know you started a small Christian metal fanzine back in the day. Welcome to the show. When did you first get interested in either heavy metal or Christian metal? And then how old were you back when all this started?
Oh, hey Jeremy, thanks for having me on. This is pretty cool. Man, it's a funny story, and I'll just try to keep it short and sweet. But I was anti um, rock music
Oh,
when I was
really?
a little kid,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Just because I was supposed to be, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Even Christian rock, the whole thing. And it wasn't like it was evil, but I just was like, no, I don't do that. So my first like the first artist that I like really gravitated to was Keith Green,
Okay.
back in the early 80s. So I was probably 12, 13, 14 years old. And then something happened. My brother, he started getting into the whole rock scene. He was into the whole heavy metal deal. And then he came across a couple Christian bands. It was Kansas. They weren't really a Christian band, but they had some of that in there. And then Kerry Livgren, I guess, was
I've heard
part
these
of.
names. I've heard the names. I've never
Yep.
actually listened to them, though.
He was a member of Kansas, and then he formed a new band called AD. And so they were kind of a Christian outfit, I guess. And
Yeah, I
so,
remember hearing that name.
yep. And so he was into them, and then several other bands. King's X, I remember back in the day. Of course, Petra, and some of the others, Resurrection Band at the time. And then, of course, along came Striper. And by 1985, I was like listening to my brother's music, and I was like, this is actually really cool. I think I like this. And then I'll never forget, Striper came on the scene 85, and then it was like early 86, and I was 16 at the time. So,
Right.
that whole year, for the most part, the first half to three quarters of the year, I was just like, this is really cool. I really like this. And I just kind of, have this promotional kind of a marketing vibe about me. And I'm loudmouthed, and I love to promote things and let people know about stuff. And so I'll never forget this story. So I started the first week. It was in September of 2000. Wow. Whoa. September of 1986. We're going way back here. And I was in 11th grade, just started my junior year of high school. And our school got these brand new typewriters, and they were unlike
Typewriters.
anything. Yeah, yeah, typewriters. They were unlike anything that I've ever seen, because normally typewriters, you had to
Yeah,
push
click,
them.
click,
They
click.
weren't. Yeah, I mean, they had electric ones, but these were different. They weren't like, there was like a gray screen like above the keyboard. It was called
Okay.
an liquid crystal display.
Yeah,
you know,
LCD.
Right. And so you would actually type out, and you could see on the screen what you were, just one line like this. You could see, what you would type before you hit enter, and then it would automatically go brrr, and then type out that one line.
Right.
And you could set it for, margins that were the same on either side. And I'm like, wow, that looks just like a magazine the way that came out. That's really cool. And so I just started thinking, and I'm like, I love this music now. This is cool technology at my school. I'm gonna just start typing out some things that I've been thinking about, and some of these bands that I'm really kind of like getting into and all that. And it was literally the inspiration of this typewriter that made it print out like a magazine, that made me think I want to type about stuff that is interesting to me. So I stayed after school every day for like, I don't even know, hours. And I'm like playing around with like settings and fonts and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is really cool. And so it just kind of got my creative juices flowing. And so Pure Rock at the time newsletter was born in September of 1986.
Yep, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, crazy
Yeah, it's
stuff.
like you get this technology. You're like, hey, I can do something with Christian rock and metal, and so now
Yeah,
from that inception, now when you do thinking of the newsletter, like, were you just getting information to make a newsletter? Like, what were you thinking?
I mean, literally, it was stuff that just was off the top of my head. I was literally just reading because I kept everything. I mean, I'm just kind of one of those people. I love to keep, stuff I can look back on years later. My first issue, it was embarrassing. Like, I didn't have any idea how to write at all. I just knew that I had a lot of creative energy. I didn't know what to do with. And so I mean, like, I'll just quote the first, like, article. I'm gonna have to subject you to me reading the entire first article for my newsletter, the very first issue. Are you ready for this?
What was
I'm just gonna read it because it's hilarious. I read it recently and I'm like, this is too funny. So the headline is Matt Hurick, newest Striper member replaces Gaines. Okay, so that's the headline. And here is the level of virtuoso that I had with incredible creative writing skills that won awards. Okay. Here it is. When Tim Gaines left Stryper recently, the band was left without a bass guitarist. However, newcomer Matt Hurick has filled Tim's shoes. The whole band, as well as Tim, agreed he should exit. Gaines wants to start a band of his own with less metal. To Hell with the Devil, Stryper's new LP due next month continues as planned. The tour comes to Boston December 1st. There you go. I mean, like,
right?
it's embarrassing, but it's simplistic, but it was just what was on my mind at the time. And I just was having fun typing it all out and looking to see what it looked like.
And at the time, that's huge news. I never even heard that ever happened until years later.
But that was it. It was just literally just a little bit of information and just kind of off the cuff remarks. And that was it. There wasn't really any investigative journalism because I didn't know how to do it. I literally didn't know what I was doing. I kind of taught myself how to do it by, writing the articles. And if you look, like if you look through each issue, there's a definite marked progression, in the journalism, frankly. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yep.
kind of taught myself how to do it. And then, it culminated in the writing for CCM magazine directly. I went to freelance after Pure Rock
Okay.
magazine.
Oh, really?
Um,
I didn't see. I didn't
started.
know that.
Yeah, my first article ever with CCM magazine was a front page story, so that was pretty cool. I
Oh,
was
wow.
19.
Yeah. Wow.
19. Yeah.
What were some other Christian metal magazines at the time you knew of, or what was the inspiration from that side of it?
Yeah. So there were mainly that I knew of. There were mainly three fanzines, is what they were basically called back in the day.
Hmm.
I believe the top dog was Heaven's Metal, Doug Van Pelt,
Yep.
Heaven's Metal,
Yep.
and then I was out, Pure Rock, and then there was also White Throne, I believe. Now I
Okay.
will say this: I do have one claim to fame in the whole fanzine race, quote unquote. I was the first magazine that used color.
Okay.
So we were all black and
Yeah.
white.
Back in the day, it was all black and white.
Yeah, because
Color
color
was
was
so
ridiculous.
expensive. Very
Oh my
expensive.
gosh, yeah. One picture was like $400 to $500 just to do the separations and the
Wow.
scanning and all that stuff. It was crazy. I ended up working for a newspaper company, and also a full color printing company around the same period of time. So I learned a lot of stuff. I kind of worked where I could learn
Yep.
because I wanted to do that. But yeah, so the last issue of Pure Rock was the first issue in color, and so hey, I got that title, and then we closed up shop. So yeah.
So how did you get subscribers? Like, how did people know about Pure Rock fanzine?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, as soon as I came up with this newsletter thing, right? And I'm like, that looks pretty cool. I mean, there's nothing there, no content, but I'm like, oh, well, what do? You need to get subscribers. So again, being a traditional promoting marketer, um, the very next event was the teen mountain climb at Mount Monadnock in New Hampshire. There was a ton of potential subscribers there. So guess what I did? Hi, I'm Dan. Yay, here's my here's my newsletter. You need to subscribe. I think it was like $5 is all I was asking for, or something crazy like that. And so then they wrote in, and it's just crazy. Back in the days before email and texting and all that, they would have to mail in a check, or they had money with them. I don't know what it was, like $2 or something, because I needed to get subscribers quickly. That's all I knew. And I think that was my first couple dozen subscribers was from that. But then I got a little bit more sophisticated as time went on, and what I ended up doing is buying advertising in other larger magazines,
Yep.
especially with my next business, evolution from the magazine. But yeah, it was a lot of it was just word of mouth. And then the big thing was this was the big push, and this I'm gonna probably answer a question you may have, but this is what put Pure Rock magazine to bed forever. Okay.
Okay.
I had an opportunity, and I'm like, I've got to expand, my get the word out. And again, I am like a high school student. I have a job part time, 20 hours a week, working as a cashier at a supermarket. Okay, making $120 a week, I think, is my take home pay,
Yep.
and I'm financing
Yeah,
and
you're
funding and trying to
dumping all
market
that, yeah, into the magazine.
all of it. That's it. Like, I didn't do drugs. It wasn't spent on the movies. It was 100% spent on this venture that I was putting everything into. And so I had an opportunity, and this is literally I had 11 issues of the magazine. I was working on my which would be the last one. It was the first one with a color, and it was featuring Petra on the cover, and
Yep.
this was their "This Means War" album, is what it was based on, right?
Yep. Great album.
Yeah, great album. And so, long story short, I got in touch with the tour manager, and the tour manager agreed to carry Pure Rock magazine on their world tour.
Wow. Yeah,
All right,
that's
so
huge. Yeah. You're like,
I'm
this is
like,
what I need.
okay, this is it, right? So I printed 10,000 copies of the color logo on the cover sheet, so
Right.
that would be stock for future issues. And I took 3,000. I did a 3,000 run. Now, up until that point, my runs were about 300, so it
Okay.
wasn't that big. But this was my opportunity to get it into countries all around the world.
Right.
And so, long story short, what ended up happening was I was selling the magazine. The price on it was $1.50, which was difficult at a concession stand anyway. 50 cents. Like, I should have done two or one. Doesn't matter. Just get the word out and get subscribers, right? And what happened was Star Song Records, which was Petra's label at the time, they just introduced a full color front page to back page magazine featuring Petra and all their artists for free. And they put it right next to mine.
That was
So
yeah.
so guess how many copies of the magazine they sold?
Not,
Right?
not
None.
too many, because people are
Very
going to go, hey,
few.
that's free. Let's take that one.
Exactly. And so that's what happened. So they got ruined, like hundreds and hundreds of copies got destroyed and damaged by accident, just in all the
Just
traveling and all
travel.
that.
Yeah.
I called the guy and I just said, "How did it go?" And he's like, "Not too good, but hey, I'll send you a check for a couple $100. Would that help?" And I was four figures in debt to the printer,
Oof.
but it was
Yeah.
only about $1,500. But still, it took me like
Still,
6 months.
back in 1987
Yeah,
money,
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
lot for someone with a part-time job, and
yeah.
it's this was going to be a big breaking point, but unfortunately, it came crashing down.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
it didn't work out, and so it took me 6 months to pay it back, and the printer refused to print anything else, and I got everything at cost because the printing company's printing manager was my Sunday school teacher. That's how this worked
Oh,
really
okay.
well.
Oh, so you had
Yeah,
those connections going.
I
Yeah.
did that. Oh yeah, you got
So
it's all in who you
you
know,
got a
brother.
network. You got a network.
Yeah, so he was not allowed to let me print anything until the bill was paid, and it took me 6 months. And by that time,
It was,
yeah,
yeah.
it was pretty much done. Pretty
Yep.
much done. So, but I had a cool logo.
Yes. So I was going to ask you on that logo, and I'm going to put it on the screen right now. Um, I loved how the design was on that. So you had a little story on that. So who designed that logo?
Yeah, yeah. So, one of the bands that I really admired around this time, they were a Christian metal band called Saint. And I again, I mean, if I have a challenge in front of me, I'm gonna shake every tree there is to find out answers to. I because of what I had been doing,
Hmm.
and the scalability of what was happening. A lot of these bands were looking for promotion, of course, and I was all about doing that. So I had some personal phone numbers of a lot of these artists, those that I would arrange to do interviews with as
Yeah.
time went on. I was able to basically set up interviews. The way that the record labels would set it up is, I would get their phone number, and so then I would call them because it was on my dime. That's the way that they did it, or usually it was the other way around. It just depends. So either way, we would stay in touch. So I had a lot of first name type friendships and relationships with some of these guys. So one of the guys was the bass player for Saint, and I just was in conversation with him, and I said, "I love your logo. Who did it?" And he gave me the guy's name and phone number. I called the guy. I said, "Hey, I just talked with, Richard
Richard
Lynch,
Lynch.
I think,
Richard
right?"
Lynch. Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Richard
Richard Lynch.
Lynch.
Sure,
Yeah. Yep.
I remember. I remember. Yep. And so dropped did the name drop, and then he charged me a very very great, just a really manageable, investment to get the logo done. And I said, "Let's do it." And he drew some sketches, and I said, "That's awesome.
That
Can
one.
that one right there, can you make that in color?" And he
Right.
picked the colors and everything, and I was just like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome."
It pops.
Totally.
It reminds me of like the Superman, the old Superman, where it comes
Yes.
out, but then you had
The
the 3D.
exploding.
You had the 3D
Yes.
of the guitar in the background. It's great.
Yep.
It's great. I love it.
Exploding V electric guitar. Yeah. Really
Yes.
cool.
Yes. Very cool.
Yep.
What was your relationship with the record labels? Did you get, because you started making those connections? Would you I know you would get pre-releases even before they were out.
Yes.
So one day you start getting packages from all these labels. How did
Yeah.
that?
I'll never forget. So the first time that happened, it opened my eyes to the fact that, oh my gosh, like I can get all this stuff for free.
Right.
And they sent it to me without me asking. And I'm like, what is this? A demo? I feel it's hilarious now, but I was like, what's a demo? Like I didn't
Right.
even know.
Right.
I was just a kid.
You just buy a record and that's it. You
Yeah.
know.
So the last record that or CD, they didn't even have CDs, but the last cassette tape or vinyl that I had purchased was, I think, in 1984 or something. And then from 1986 until, wow, most of the rest of the next decade, so through the 90s, I never bought any of my music. It was all given to me.
Wow.
That's what they do. They do demos and service and all. And then I just got a conscience when I shut down the production company, and I just said I can't do this anymore. And so I called them all up and I said, take me off your list because I'm not active.
Right.
I just, it wasn't right. But anyway, so yeah, so I would be on the phone often. I remember Wesley Hine from Enigma Records
Yep.
during Stryper's heyday.
Hmm.
I was on the first name basis with him. We would
Oh
talk
wow.
all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I got everything. I got demos. I got all kinds of stuff, works in progress, whatever the label had and what have you. And so, yeah, I would call them up, and many of them they put me on an automatic service. So anytime there was a new, album coming out, they wanted obviously the press to start promoting it and
Right.
reviewing it. I did reviews. I did feature stories. I did it all. I took, I did photography, as well for
Okay.
for Pure Rock, all of
Yep.
that. And then other times I would just call them up and just say, "Hey, when's Striper's new record? When's the demo going to be ready? When's the pre-release? When's the pre-release? When are the masters done?" Okay, how are they doing in the production? How I would literally call like
Right.
every week.
Right.
Okay,
What's
how
going
much
on?
longer? How much longer? What are you talking about? Another 2 weeks? What do you mean? No. And then
Well,
as
'cause
soon
then
as they would get it,
you get the information, then you put in your fanzine. Say, hey,
yes,
I got word it's coming in a couple months, and
yep.
I know you
It's
had
like
some articles on Guardian when they switched from the GARDIN Guardian to the GUARDIN Guardian.
right, right.
So, what did you
Yeah,
think of the original name?
yeah. I've got a couple good stories. That's one, and then I got another one about Saint's second, I think second album, "Too Late for Living."
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
I'll tell you about the Guardian, the Guardian one. That was fun because again, I don't know what it is with me and bass players, but I guess I mean it worked out well. David Bach was the guitar the bass guitarist for Guardian,
hmm
and so I interviewed him as well, and we were on a first name basis as well. I'd call him, "Hey Dan, how are you?" That kind of a thing. Probably more like, "Hey Dan, what is it now?" you know. But anyway, but we were on a first name basis, and when their first album came out, it was Guardian, GARDIAN,
right.
and I'm a little OCD, and that always kind of triggered me a little bit. And I was
It's
always
not.
like, why do you spell it wrong? Like what? And it's unique. And I'm like, well, yeah, but it's dumb. Like it's not. It's like Guardian is GUAR. You don't have to. It's kind of like when certain products or companies they'll take the product name and they'll call it like Easy, the letter E and then the letter Z. I'm
Right,
like
easy.
EASY. Come on, anyway. Right, and so I get what they were trying to do, but at the same time, it was just annoying, and it was just weird, and I just said my piece, and that's it. And then their second album came out, and it was spelled GUAR. Now I'm sure it wasn't me, but I did specifically mention to the founding member of Guardian that I didn't like it. So who knows?
Right. You never
I
know.
wouldn't claim the credit. But the other story that's pretty cool, if I can share it,
Yeah, yeah, please.
yeah, it was Saint. Their first album came out, and I think I'm trying to remember now. I think
Time's
too
End was
late.
the first one. Time's End.
Okay, okay,
Pretty sure
right.
it was 1986.
Okay,
Pretty
so then
sure.
it was their second album, Too Late for Living. I think that was
Yes.
88, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe. I don't
80,
know.
89, somewhere around there.
Oh, or 89. Yeah. So I was in talks with the A&R director at Pure Metal Records at the time,
Yep.
another guy that I would talk to. And I'm like, "Oh, so what's up with Saint? They got a new one." "Yep, yep, we got a new album. It's we're trying to decide between two. I think he was saying something. He mentioned that they were going to go with The Accuser for the name,
For the
and they
title of the
said
record, yeah.
for the title of the record, and then he said we were also thinking of the song Too Late for Living, but I think we're going to go with The Accuser. And I'm like, that's a dumb idea. Too Late for Living is so much better. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? And
Yeah.
I was like totally like overwhelming. And then the album came out Too Late for Living. So I think I will
Again.
claim that one.
You never
Yeah.
know. So,
They must have had a lot of people advising them, I'm sure. But anyway, that's a funny story.
so at the end, so how long did the Pure Rock magazine last? The run.
So the first little deal was September of '86,
Mm-hmm.
and the last issue was fall of '80. Wow,
87, 88.
it was 1 year. I want to say it was 1 year. It was 11 issues. So the last issue was fall, and that's the one with looking at it right here to see where we're at, and that one was doesn't even have a date on it. Isn't that nice? Yeah, it would have been the fall that the following fall.
So roughly
Um,
about a year. Oh, almost a year.
yeah, it was fall of '87 is what it was. Yep. So there were 10 issues for the first year. So it was every month, September of '86, and then through August of '87, and there was 1 month where there was a delay.
Mm-hmm.
There were 10 issues, and then the 11th issue was volume 2, number 1. So that was fall of '87, and I went from monthly to bi-monthly. That was the intent. So it was
Right.
going to be every 2 months, so that each issue could be bigger
Right.
and put more money into each. Right, have advertising, and that was the goal, is to start doing advertising to generate revenue. And that started actually at the end of the first year, and all of a sudden I realized, oh, so this is why there's ads in magazines.
Right.
Wow,
Make money.
they pay me
Right.
so that I can afford to hire people to write and to go color and all this stuff. That was the whole idea. And so I was so proud of that last issue. not only because it had full color just in the logo,
Right.
nowhere else, but also I had substantial advertising in there, which just made it more legitimate. I just was
Right.
very excited about it, and that excitement, caused me to bite off more than I could chew with that whole Petra tour deal,
Right.
But
That was
hey, it's a
unfortunate.
great business lesson, and
Yep.
now I'm doing really well as a business person, business owner myself. So
Nice.
yeah.
So after that stopped, Pure Rock still continued in what capacity?
Yeah, yeah. So Pure Rock magazine was it was done. I kind of closed that chapter, but still that whole marketing and promotion stuff. I've always loved that, and so I went in two different directions. Began to diversify. So Pure Rock became Pure Rock Productions, which was on one side was the promotion arm. So I started doing event promotion, and then also a different company altogether back in the day when Amazon was barely selling hardly any books, and Christian Book Distributors I think was kind of starting too. They were around. Yeah, they definitely were around. I think they may have still been in a small office, just leaving their parents' garage, I think. And so the idea of and that was Pure Rock CDs and tapes. So it was retail cassette tapes and compact discs because that was what was selling at the
Usually.
time. And so mail order music.
Yes.
So I was promoting the music directly with sales and then promoting the music through events. I did Pure Rock on Wheels, which was a Christian roller skating night,
Yep, I remember
and
those.
I would rent out the Roller Palace in Beverly, Mass. Once a month to youth groups, and I'd market it to youth groups, and we'd have a couple hundred kids showing up every month, and I could play the newest music,
Right.
and that was the whole thing featuring the newest for the serious fan of Christian rock, is kind of how that was. And so that was happening, and then that evolved into concert promotions. One of the first concerts I did was when I was actually a youth pastor in the mid to late '90s, and a band that was brand new. They just came out that month with their second album, and they literally had they sold I think the total was like 25 or 30,000 copies of their first album, and their second one they were hoping was going to be different, and they changed musical directions a little bit. And they were just this little band called Skillet.
Oh, they were around back then? Wow, I didn't know they've been around that long.
Skillet Skillet's first album came out in '96, and then their second one was '98. This was in '98. And I had seen them at Creation Festival as a youth pastor the year before, and I was blown away. I'm like, I got to promote these guys somehow. And so, anyway, I kind of hold the title of being the concert promoter. I was in New York at the time, who put on the largest festival, the largest attended outdoor concert Skillet had ever had, other than a music festival, up to that point.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was. We got about I want to say over 1,000 people that showed up, and they were blown away. In the backyard of the church, the softball field,
Right.
and it was cool. Yeah, so I drove them around in the church van all through Manhattan, and they played at a bunch of nightclubs, and they ended up getting signed to Lava Records,
Mhm.
which then turns into Atlantic, of course, owned by Atlantic, and they're on Atlantic Records directly
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Still around.
But that was way back when.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. But anyway, so that's the production side of things, promoting events and all that. And then Pure X CDs and tapes, it was increasing 400% quarter over quarter, not year over year.
Wow.
Every quarter, sales were increasing dramatically to the point where my entire bedroom was filled with cardboard boxes full of
Because you're
CDs.
doing it
I was ordering.
out of your room, out of your house. It's no pretty
Yep,
big production facility. It's
yep,
all hands
yeah.
on.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And so I bought full page ads, ironically, in Heaven's Metal
Yeah, I
magazine.
remember seeing those.
Yep, which was an order form, so they'd have to copy it out of the magazine, or tear it out.
Right.
God forbid, right? And then they would fill it out and then mail in a certified or bank cashier's check, whatever, to me. I had real quick. So I had subscribers to Pure Rock magazine in 13 different countries when all was said and done.
Okay, yeah,
And
nice.
then I got orders from 13 countries, different people, but it was 13 countries, for CDs and tapes. So I'm shipping them internationally and all that. I had a second phone line I added. Um, I think I did. Was I even doing credit cards? I don't even know if I was. I had to. Yeah, I was doing credit cards at the end. But then what happened with that was it was growing faster than I could handle, and I knew that I was going to have to make a decision. And at that time, this really nice lady walked into my life, who is now my wife,
Oh,
uh, for over 30 years now.
yeah, congratulations.
Crazy. Yep. And I was 20 and I literally had to make up my mind. Do I want to put all my effort into building this business? I had dreams of opening, storefronts, Pure Rock music, all over,
Good thing we
just
didn't go down
franchise.
that road because there are no more music stores, baby.
I know. Oh my gosh, I know. God save me from that fiasco, that
Yep.
financial bankruptcy fiasco. But anyway, so I decided I'm going to go all in with this relationship, and we got married less than a year later. I was 3 weeks from 21 when we ended up getting married, and so I sold Pure Rock CDs and tapes to. It was either Christian Book Distributors or it was going to be a Christian Book and Supply in Acton and Burlington. That's the company I sold it to.
Yep.
And so I was free and clear, and I was done with all that. I still did the concert promotion stuff like that for a while, but that's that story.
Nice. So I was going to say, is there any more on the Pure Rock Productions, or that was pretty much the end of it once you sold it, and then you're like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm
Pure Rock
done.
CDs. Yeah, Pure Rock CDs and tapes was done. The productions, I kept that for a few more years because I did a couple more concerts. I did a couple. I actually did a couple more Skillet concerts later on. I'm actually in their liner notes in their Invincible album, not Feel Invincible from their 2016 album, but the album Invincible. That was their third one in 2000. I think it was 2000 it came out.
Okay.
Yeah, that was from all that work. But yeah, as far as Pure Rock Productions goes, that's pretty much it after
Yeah.
the mid '90s.
Yeah, nice. So for the audience, I knew Dan. There's this Christian camp. It's once a week in August, and that's how I met Dan. He'd be like, "Hey guys, check out this new music." I'm like, "Wait, this isn't out yet. This is Deliverance. This isn't even out yet." You would have all these pre-releases, and I'm like, "How are you getting this stuff?" So that's how I know Dan and I know each other. But I thought my audience would like to hear some stories and how he created his fanzine and how long it lasted. And I want to thank Dan for coming on. Dan, do you have any closing things to say at all?
No, yeah. I mean, thanks for the opportunity just to kind of reminisce a little bit. It's always fun to look back.
It's 35 years ago.
No, it can't be that long. That makes me feel too old. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Let's just call it at least 10 years or longer.
All right, Dan, thanks for being on the show, and we'll look forward to seeing this on YouTube.
Absolutely.
All right, have a good night.
You too.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
If you made it to the end, you are a legend. I appreciate you watching the show and supporting the show. I do have something special for you guys. I talked to Dan, and he was gracious enough to allow me to share all of the issues of Pure Rock magazine with you. So if you're a subscriber, send me your YouTube ID, so this way I know you're a subscriber. And I'm going to give you two options, and you can do both actually. First option, I can send it to you digitally in a PDF format. Second option, I can print this for you. If you want to print out, it's about 30 pages, double-sided. Kind of see here. So what I'm going to do is, of course, the digital version is free. So there's no cost for that. If you're old school like me and want to have an actual physical printout magazine, I combined all the issues together. All I'm going to ask is that you pay the shipping. I will print these at no cost to you, and I will ship internationally. Again, you guys just have to pay the shipping costs. I can also send it digital, or I can send both if you want both. I want to say thank you to Dan Millette for allowing me to share this with you guys. This is a piece of Christian rock and metal history from 1986 to 1987. We have interviews from Steve Whitaker from Darren Cross, Richard Lynch from Saint, Andy Strauss from Messiah Prophet, Robert Sweet from Stryper, Les Carlson and Michael Bloodgood from Bloodgood, and Barb Hopman from Petra. Plus news, everything else in the magazine, but actual interviews with the artists are all here. So if you want a piece of this history, just send me your email, and I will send the cost back to you if you want it actually physically printed and sent to you. If not, I can just send it by PDF, and you can open up, of course, on your phone or your computer. So you got to be a subscriber though. So send me your handle. I'm gonna put my email here, and I'll probably also put it in the description below. I'll get this out to you as soon as I can. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. That's it for this one. See you in the next one. Later.